In 2024, Nintendo finally pulled the plug to the 3DS and the Wii U servers, taking with them countless online experiences. But we haven't just lost the multiplayer that had been there for over a decade, we've lost communities, extra features, digital game libraries that simply never materialized on disc or cartridge. As a result, these consoles feel somewhat hollow, empty. Fan-driven alternatives that aim to bring these things back to life do exist and are amazing, but things won't ever be as they once were. The Wii U truly is dead as hell. Perhaps even the deadest console of all time. Well, no, of course, besides the Ouya. And also the Soldier game. Honestly, in the grand scheme of things, this thing ain't even in the top 10 of forgotten bullshit. However, that's irrelevant, because it changed everything. But no one cares. So why should you care? Because the Switch seriously only dominated in the way that it did because of this thing, because of this fall from grace. It's not about good or bad, it's about influence. So where do you begin with the Wii U? Well, you start at what people criticized arguably the most: Nintendo's incompetent messaging. Yeah. You know what's coming. Marketing. Hey, you. Do you like kids? I mean, are you a squid? No, what I mean to say is, are you a well-adjusted family of middle-class citizens? Mondor is bussin', fam. Please buy our console. We have Goo Goo Gaga Chronicles and also Splatoon. So much of the advertising in this era aimed a massive spotlight at babies, and if it wasn't babies, it was toddlers. If it wasn't toddlers, it was hairy men with money to spend. Look at this Pikachu I bought for $2,000. Hell yeah. Casuals will always be a target demographic for Nintendo, but it felt like that was their sole focus, and that truly is what alienated the potential customers. Insecure kids trying to be cool. Unless they're trying to sell a baby game like Bayonetta, there's no excuse. Nintendo had a serious problem in that a decent amount of people thought this was an accessory, and an even more serious problem that other people weren't aware it even existed. The Wii U's marketing has been beaten to death, so I won't go too far into explaining it. Nintendo's appeal was so messy at this time that there's too many angles to take when trying to dissect what went wrong. How this is relevant to the Switch is that Nintendo made bad commercials and should make good ones instead isn't just my opinion, it was the main takeaway Nintendo absorbed when transitioning to the Switch. Now, to be fair, some of those ads are fucking amazing. As much as we meme on them, I kinda miss stuff like this. They had personality, they were so bad, they got good. You're a kid, you're a squid is gonna go down in history. Who the fuck's gonna talk about dramatic pan montage in 10 years? I know that's a cherry pick, I just want to emphasize how important it is that consumers are actually able to remember your advertisement. Now, it'd be complete lunacy if Nintendo started making stuff like this again. I don't actually think Switch 2 would be better off with the corny commercials. The negative response to these commercials forced Nintendo to carefully analyze every step of the way in those first few Switch years to make sure they fully understood how to best capture attention. Look no further than the original reveal. It doesn't make an attempt to over-exaggerate how cool and epic the Switch is. They utilize actors above the age of 3. We go from cool hip adult location to cool hip adult location. There's no obnoxious music in the background. The Switch reveal still stands tall, and it was a clear opposite of their Wii U endeavors. You wouldn't have the greatest trailer of all time if Nintendo's entire future wasn't riding on it, if the Wii U was a modest success. The energy of Breath of the Wild and Donkey Kong Bonanza couldn't be much further in what they set out to accomplish. That whiplash effect of overcorrecting and how they attempt to woo people shows you just how much the Wii U changed this company's thought process, for better or worse. I just wish modern Nintendo wasn't so scared of being weird. A bit of weirdness is okay, you know? Because on the other end of the spectrum, there were the good Wii U commercials. We have the big budget skits, but mainly there was the Smash Bros. Hype cycle, which was ludicrous. If you know, you know. If you were there, you know. Mega Man's reveal single-handedly convinced me to play his games. People focus on the crappy stuff as they should, but the iconic Smash Bros. Reveals we grew to expect in Nintendo Directs started here and extended themselves into the Switch era. Everyone is here deserves a monstrous amount of credit on its own, but the opening cross, the Smash card, that emphasis on being cinematic and grand, folding the original game's art style into the reveal. Oh, That all came from Smash for Wii U and 3DS, introducing a bigger emphasis on the significance of third-party representation, treating character reveals as events and not just mere DLC. Smash 4 consolidated Smash as not only a celebration of Nintendo but gaming in general, and made the franchise into a bigger deal at a time when social media was getting bigger and bigger. All the mistakes made with the Wii U's ads gave them a blueprint onto how to not market the Switch to people. The importance of Smash's ability to have everyone holding their breath can't be understated. Ultimate might have been one of the biggest reasons to encourage people to go out and buy Switches. Straight up a cultural zeitgeist from 2018 onwards, and that should be partially attributed to Smash 4 in more ways than one. Next up, adoption. The Switch regurgitated Wii U titles like it was nobody's business. Now, I don't have a problem with that, but it does need to be expressed. Nintendo was quite reliant on people never having played anything on the Wii U. In fact, so much so that it did kinda make the Switch's library look a bit less impressive when you zoomed out in those first few years of its life. Now, it's a fantastic idea to turn all that development time spent on these games, all that market research, and be able to spread it out to a bigger audience as well as use it to fill a gap in your schedule. Complete win-win. Backwards compatibility obviously plays a part here too, but there's no world where you're able to do, well, that if the games in question have already sold extremely well, at least without a good reason. You can't pass off Kirby and the Forgotten Land as the major release of the year or month because a lot of people have already played it. You have to add some kind of new value proposition. Having Mario Kart 8 so close to launch was a big fucking deal. So crucial to the success of Switch. Creating a brand new game takes time, resources, people. $80, time. You can't just will it into existence. But sitting right there, Nintendo had this brand spanking new Mario Kart with tidbits of DLC begging for an Ultimate Edition. They turned all that into a better looking game that plays like a dream in your pocket. Also, it's fucking Mario Kart. In 2017, you couldn't get something like that on the go anywhere else. It has since become the most popular Switch game of all time. Shit, it is the biggest Mario game ever, period. Mario Kart 8 XL has got like an attach rate of about 40%, and while that's no doubt partially due to being a pack-in, it represents that this is the essential experience to most people on any Nintendo platform. Yeah, and that is still a premier Wii U title. Mario Kart 8 in its current form today is different from how it ended on Wii U, so it'd be ridiculous for me to say this is simply a Wii U port, but that Wii U port has remained as the core experience. On top of all that, do you people remember what the Switch launched with? Breath of the Wild literally won E3 by existing. It was originally the reason to buy a Wii U, and even managed to sell a few million on there. Zelda Wii U, this was the Wii U's Zelda, making it all the more hilarious that everyone just knows it as the Switch system seller. There were more copies of Breath of the Wild in the wild than Switch consoles at one point. Without these two games on the Switch in its first month, who knows how well the Switch even does in that year. Zooming out for the big picture, 2017 had Pokken Tournament, Zelda, Mario Kart, and technically Lego City. 2018 gave us Bayonetta 2, Donkey Kong, Captain Toad, and Hyrule Warriors. 2019 offered new Mario plus new Luigi U, as well as Yoshi's Woolly World, but worse. 2020 saw the release of Tokyo Mirage and Pikmin 3 Deluxe at the end of the year, as well as Wonderful 101, but technically Nintendo didn't really publish it. Then in early 2021 we get the last Wii U port in 3D World and Bowser's Fury, until Xenoblade Chronicles X in 2025. I'm not making the argument that Wii U games are all the Switch had to offer, but that is a solid 4 years straight of refugees escaping my Kindle. Now for the record, I am happy they did this. A whole new audience was able to experience these games. They weren't forever lost, and I did appreciate when they'd occasionally go the extra mile for some of these ports. Emphasis on occasionally, but at the end of the day, you are still looking at Wii U titles. Like 3 of the Switch's best sellers are Wii U games, so the ports absolutely made a difference. Visually, there is so much less needed taking a Wii U game to Switch in terms of making it look like a modern release, an upscale, and boom, it's about on par with everything else on the platform. This is relevant as Nintendo struggled a little bit when transitioning to HD development. You can see that with new Mario U quite literally just being a HD new New Mario Wii, it's notable that it took them an entire year to start releasing actual first-party games, with the exception of Game & Wario. My point is, I feel having to go through this for 5 years set the Switch up for success when it came to consistent releases. You know, not ports, but gaining knowledge. The software issues that plagued the Wii U may very well have been necessary evils in attaining the equilibrium of the Switch generation. Like, I always theorized that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD were sort of like internal training for Breath of the Wild. The Wii 2 was also home to a few unique games that wouldn't get straight remasters. Instead, Nintendo would clamor to make versions of these games for Switch. And the Wii U fanbase was not thrilled. Part 4. Sperm donations. So, obviously, I'm gonna start with motherfucking Splatoon. These satanic octopuses are the mascots of one of Nintendo's biggest franchises today, alongside Zelda, Mario, and Pokemon. Splatoon is one of the big shots. In 2015, next to a slew of military shooters, this was a breath of fresh air with how its unique gameplay was designed to be approachable for any skill level, in addition to how Nintendo had a unique way of engaging with the community. And again, you literally have the Wii U to thank for this bad bitch. Say thank you. No other new Nintendo IP in the past 20 years grew like Splatoon did, unless you count the Me/B stuff, in which case, yeah, technically those would count, but it technically undermines my point, so it can technically go straight to hell. This game was a massive success, selling 5 million to the 13 million consoles out there in the wild, actively doing a lot for Nintendo in their struggle years. Splatoon 2 and 3 collectively sold like 25 million smackaroonies, and it goes without saying they wouldn't exist without Splatoon 1, but to focus on my point, Splatoon 1 is most of the DNA of Splatoon 2. A sequel that comes like 2 years later with an insanely short development time really isn't normal for most Nintendo IP. It's fair to say that Splatoon 2 wouldn't have even released in 2017 at all if it could have just reused those assets. Now that said, this is still a sequel. There are many tiny tweaks, multiple new maps, a different story mode. Salmon Run is a major difference. It's not like they just duplicated the original game, but without that original game, boom! A major franchise and Switch exclusive from the console's first year disappears just like that. And I don't think the Funny Arm game has what it takes to carry the summer. Oh, look at Smash Ultimate. Personally, I enjoy looking at Smash Ultimate. Brought all these iconic characters together and is ultimately the best Smash game. Someone out there believes 64 is the best Smash game. The argument for slavery grows every single day. Flash Brothers was fucking everywhere in 2018. It was the game that told me I need a Switch now. A new Smash game less than 2 years after the release of the console wasn't out of the ordinary, but this quick of a turnaround was completely unprecedented at the time. It's like if Smash Ultimate 2 came out in 2023. That's literally why I wasn't even sure if this was a new game or a port when it first got revealed, and obviously I was not the only one to share this sentiment. Now Ultimate is noticeably a different game, but again, when you look at it closely, assets, animations, maps, gameplay mechanics were clearly heavily reused as the base foundation to build upon. It's Smash 4 on steroids or Ozempic, whichever one is cool with the kids these days. You look at Melee to Brawl to 4, and these all have distinct feels. You look at 4 to Ultimate, I mean, the flowers are different color. Now I kid. I joke, perhaps I even jest, but never before did a Smash sequel feel like this much of an extension of the last title. Smash 4 is this game's skeleton to the extent that most Nintendo fans do consider 4 to be a poor man's Ultimate, and that's unfortunate. The sensation of Smash Ultimate would not have happened if not for the heavy lifting that Bandai put in for Smash 4. This game truly does not deserve the bullying it gets. And of course, you can apply everything I just said here to 2 other signature games as well, Mario Maker and Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. Take everything here, make it way bigger, polish it, add more features, add a proper single player campaign. You make damn sure to add worse controls. Do this thing, but do it better. Quick side note, it's not even funny how much better Races is than Ultra Smash. That shit was a tech demo of a tech demo of a leak. Anyway, they did that song and dance 4 times on the Switch, devaluing those prior games in the process. Why play X when you have X but better? I would understand if some fans felt like they'd been slapped in the face. Now, I'm not saying they should have left those games alone out of respect. I just dislike when people don't give this console the credit it deserves. If it wasn't for all the work Nintendo put in here, the Switch would have had far less overall software output. They would have needed to take way more time on big releases, and those releases would have been few and far in between. This is why I don't think the Switch 2 has a chance of following this generation up. But it's not just the software that left its impact. For For instance, look at the Gamepad. Every Wii U fan knows this iconic move. We call it PTSD. It is a switch if it couldn't switch, and you forget how similar the two devices look until they're side by side. Holding the two in your hands, you can feel they were cut from the same cloth. Being this tablet built into a game controller is what many imagined the Wii U Gamepad to be if it was unrestricted. Down to the exact same screen size, 6.2 inches. Both had their own kickstand, both have Joy-Cons, that is if a Wiimote and Nunchuk count as Joy-Cons, which they do because I said so. The console design at play here on the Switch showed DNA of not only the Wii U, but additionally other Nintendo consoles. They took note of what they did before and used it as a foundation to something better. Technology is rapidly progressing, and in 2017, this inherently allowed them to do things that they couldn't have done in 2012, like giving us USB-C and not the Planet Fitness 48 kilogram charging brick. This is the shit Kevin threw off that rooftop in Home Alone 2. Oh, and how can I forget Amiibo? Amiibo. This is less of a Wii U thing and more a general Nintendo thing, but it still began life in the Wii U era, hitting its peak of popularity in 2014/2015. Toys to Life was a home console fad more than a portable console fad, which is why the 3DS doesn't really count here. Amiibo came to rise in the Wii U era, and I think everyone's glad it stuck around. It definitely gave Nintendo cultural relevance at a time when they were losing that. For example, look at my Sonic Amiibo. It will never see oxygen. It's also worth mentioning that Miiverse and the user interface was so good, it made this shit look annoyingly pathetic by comparison. Finally, and perhaps more so than anything else, a lot of people didn't know the Wii U existed. And so they skipped a generation without knowing they skipped a generation. Even if they knew what it was, they didn't buy it. If you kidnapped a random American and showed them pictures of the Wii, the Wii U, and the Switch, they'd probably scream, "Oh God, help me, help someone, please help me." All of the lost customers who wouldn't have bought the Wii U and didn't buy the 3DS came crashing back to Nintendo when they finally made a new home console after a decade. I would understand if this all came across as a massive cut, but I do believe what happened here was quite interconnected. No other console's best-selling title is a re-release. Bing it, I dare you. The successes of the Wii U seem to be overlooked nowadays. Yeah, at the end of the day, it was still a complete failure, and marketing was simply not the only reason it crumbled apart like that. You had a number of reasons to not buy one of these. The story of the Wii U is one of constant undercutting. It was undercut by the 3DS. It was undercut by the Switch. The genuinely great controller was undercut by the mediocre battery life and inconsistent technology. The games were undercut by the marketing. The games were undercut by the games. It was curled monkey paw after curled monkey paw. So Nintendo decided we need to be super aggressive, and that aggressiveness rarely stopped. But it's only because they had to be aggressive that the Wii U forced them out of complacency. And look at them now. We're here discussing whether or not the Switch could take the console sales throne when we used to discuss how Nintendo could be on the way out. I fucking love $1 trillion corporations.